The moment I opened my door, I knew something was wrong. The man holding my daughter's hand wasn't just kissing it. He was marking territory, his dark eyes sliding past her face to inventory my house like a wolf counting sheep. "Dad," Adeline's voice bubbled with a joy I hadn't heard since her mother died. "This is Mateo." Before I could respond, the stranger dropped to one knee right there in my foyer. The marble tiles Maria had chosen 15 years ago reflected his theatrical gesture. Behind him, an older couple pushed through my doorway, uninvited, the woman's perfume thick enough to choke on. "Mr. Green," Mateo announced, still on his knees, not even waiting for proper introductions. "I must have your daughter's hand. She is my destiny." The words sounded rehearsed. His accent was heavy, but the pronunciation was too perfect, like he'd practiced this speech in front of a mirror. The ring he produced caught the hallway light. 2 carats at least, far beyond what any car dealership manager should afford. "Mateo, you are embarrassing me." Adeline giggled, but her eyes shone. 28 years old, my daughter still believed in fairy tales. The older man had already moved past us into my living room. What a magnificent home. His fingers traced the edge of my leather couch, checking the label underneath. "You must tell me about your investments, Mr. Green." "That's Carlos, Mateo's father," Adeline explained, pulling me along while Mateo finally stood. "And this is Isabel, his mother." Isabel grabbed my hands with both of hers. She smiled wide but cold. "How wonderful to meet you. Adeline says you own a construction company. How many properties do you own?" "For wedding planning, of course." Wedding planning. They'd been dating 3 months. My military training kicked in automatically. Exits cataloged, positions noted, threat levels assessed. Carlos had his phone out, taking pictures. Isabel's eyes tracked across the room like she was pricing items for auction. Mateo kept one arm around Adeline while his other hand checked his phone every few seconds. Dad's company built half of downtown Austin. Adeline beamed, missing how all 3 visitors perked up at this information. Carlos abandoned his photography to shake my hand. His grip was too firm, held too long, a dominance play I recognized from 20 years of negotiations. A successful man. "You must have excellent insurance policies, retirement funds." "Dinner should be ready soon," I said, keeping my voice level. My construction foreman voice, Maria used to call it, calm but commanding. "Why don't we move to the living room?" They spread through my space like water finding cracks. Isabel settled into Maria's reading chair, running her fingers along the Italian leather. Carlos studied my bookshelf, pulling out volumes to check their worth. Mateo guided Adeline to the couch, but remained standing, positioning himself between us. "Tell me about this proposal," I said, settling into my armchair. "Seems sudden." "Love knows no timeline," Mateo declared. Another practiced line. When I saw Adeline at that Starbucks on 6th Street, I knew she would be my wife. There was no Starbucks on 6th Street. I kept my expression neutral. "It was magical, Dad," Adeline added, showing the ring again. He walked right up to me and said I was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Carlos had moved to my wall of military photos. "You served, Mr. Green. That must mean excellent benefits. Veterans have such wonderful programs." "Some," I replied, watching him photograph my discharge papers. Isabel leaned forward. "Adeline mentioned your wife passed. I'm so sorry. The insurance must have helped with the transition." The transition, as if Maria's death from cancer was a corporate restructuring. "We managed," I said. Mateo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then typed quickly. The message was in Spanish. I caught a glimpse of Sophia before he pocketed the device. "Your parents flew in from Mexico?" I asked him. "Houston." Carlos corrected quickly. "We live in Houston now for many years." "I thought Mateo said Dallas when we met," Adeline said, confused. "We moved around," Mateo said smoothly. "Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. Papa's business requires it." "What business?" I asked Carlos. "Import and export," he replied vaguely. "Very successful. Completely legitimate." Nobody had suggested otherwise. Isabel stood suddenly. We should celebrate. This beautiful home needs champagne for such wonderful news. I have wine, I offered. From my collection? Carlos's eyes lit up. A wine collection? Of course, a man of your caliber would have excellent taste. They followed me through the house like appraisers at an estate sale. Isabel touched every surface. Carlos opened closet doors by mistake. Mateo whispered urgently to his father in Spanish, something quick and sharp that made Carlos wave him off dismissively. The dining room's this way, I said, catching Carlos mid-whisper. His hand was on Mateo's shoulder, speaking rapidly in Spanish while gesturing at the walls, the furniture, calculating values I pretended not to understand. I pulled the wine bottle from the rack, reading the label aloud for Carlos's benefit. 2015 Chateau Margaux. Been saving it for something special. His eyes broadened with naked greed. This must have cost quite a bit. Dad collects wine, Adeline said, seating herself next to Mateo. Mom started the tradition before she passed. Isabel claimed the chair closest to me, her positioning tactical. Carlos sat across from his son, creating a triangle around me. I'd seen this formation before. Interrogation setup designed to pressure from multiple angles. The core came free with a soft pop. I poured deliberately, watching Carlos practically salivate as the burgundy liquid filled his glass. He grabbed it before I'd finished serving others. Tell us your love story, Isabel urged her son while studying the crystal stemware for marks. Mateo launched into his tale. I was getting coffee at that Starbucks, you know, the one on Friday, when I saw Adeline grading papers. The sun hit her hair like gold. It was actually cloudy that day, Adeline corrected, laughing, but everything else was perfect. Right, cloudy, Mateo adjusted quickly, but she glowed anyway. I knew I had to meet her. When was this? I asked, settling into my chair. January 15th, Mateo said. January 8th, Adeline said simultaneously. They looked at each other. Mateo laughed too loud. Time flies with love. Every day feels like the first time. Isabel fingered Adeline's ring, tilting it under the light. The clarity is exceptional. You must have paid $30,000, at least. Mother, Mateo protested, but his voice was convicted. We need to know for insurance purposes, Querida, Isabel continued, when you add it to your policy. When, not if. Carlos had already emptied his glass. As I refilled it, he said, Your construction company must have government contracts. Those are the most lucrative. Some, I admitted, serving the first course, Adeline's grandmother's soup recipe. Federal contracts mean guaranteed payment, Carlos continued. Perfect for a man planning his daughter's future. Mateo's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. Another Spanish text, the word urgent visible before he flipped it over. Everything all right? I asked. Just work, he said quickly. The dealership never stops calling. Which dealership? I asked, though Adeline had told me. Toyota of North Austin, he said. I thought you said Honda of Cedar Park. Adeline frowned. I worked at both, Mateo covered. Recently switched. Isabel steered the conversation back. Truman, you must have excellent life insurance. A man in construction. Such dangerous work. Dad's been doing it for 30 years, Adeline defended. He's careful. Accidents happen, Carlos said darkly, then caught himself. I mean, it's good to be prepared. The second course arrived, Maria's enchiladas. Isabel took one bite and spoke rapid Spanish to her husband, not quite under her breath. Something about bland American versions. Adeline, who'd spent hours perfecting the recipe, smiled unknowingly. These are wonderful, dear, Isabel said in English, her tone completely different. How's your visa situation? I asked Mateo directly. Adeline mentioned you're from Mexico originally. The table went silent. Carlos's hand stopped halfway to his wine glass. My visa situation is complicated, Mateo said carefully. Everything is legal. Carlos insisted too quickly. My son has all proper documentation. Dad's business is totally legitimate, Mateo added, which seemed unrelated to the question. Isabel touched my arm. Family is what matters. Papers are just bureaucracy. Of course, I agreed, noting how they all relaxed. Dessert approached as they discussed the wedding. Each time Adeline mentioned a detail, the family calculated costs aloud. $20,000 for the venue, $15,000 for catering. The numbers kept climbing. We'll contribute, Carlos announced magnanimously. After all, we're joining families. Your success is our success. Papers fell from Mateo's jacket as he reached for more wine. Official-looking documents with USCIS visible on the header. He snatched them back, shoving them deep in his pocket. Work papers, he said unnecessarily. Always carrying work papers. Carlos poured himself another glass, his fourth. His cheeks had grown red, his guard dropping. Time is short for us all. We must move quickly with our plans. Papa, Mateo warned. Carlos waved him off, then looked at his family meaningfully. Some opportunities don't wait. I rose to get the cake. My movements calm despite my racing pulse. Behind me, they switched to rapid Spanish. Voices low but urgent. Carlos's tone was commanding. Isabel's calculating. Mateo's reluctant. My hand paused mid-cut through the chocolate layers. The knife suspended as their conversation flowed. Every muscle in my body wanted to react, but I kept my expression pleasant, neutral, the perfect ignorant host about to serve dessert to wolves who thought they'd found a sheep. I resumed cutting the cake as their Spanish conversation filled my dining room, each word translating in my head, while my face remained pleasantly blank. The old fool's daughter is perfect for the green card, Carlos said, not bothering to lower his voice much. 3 years after marriage, then divorce. She gets her broken heart. We get citizenship and half of everything. The knife sliced through chocolate frosting. Maria's recipe. She's a teacher, Isabel added, examining our family china. She'll believe anything with enough tears. Look how she gazes at Mateo. Completely blind. My hand stayed steady, cutting equal portions. Papa, I told you Sophia's pregnant, Mateo said quietly. I can't leave her waiting 3 more years. Forget that girl, Carlos snapped. You'll do your duty to this family. Sophia will wait, or we'll find you another when you're divorced and rich. I thought of Maria teaching me Spanish during our first deployment together in Puerto Rico. Escucha, she'd said. Listen more than you speak. The Marines had stationed me there for 2 years, but Maria had received my real education. Her family from San Juan had embraced me, taught me, made me fluent. What about the construction business? Isabel asked. The divorce settlement would be substantial. Half of everything, Carlos confirmed. Texas is a community property state. Plus, the old fool will probably give Mateo a job. Americans are so trusting with family. What are you all discussing? Adeline asked brightly, breaking their flow. Just family memories, dear. Mateo lied smoothly, switching to English like flipping a channel. Papa was reminded of my childhood. I served the cake, meeting each of their eyes as I placed their plates. Carlos grabbed his fork, eagerly oblivious. Isabel smiled that cold smile. Mateo looked slightly sick. They switched back to Spanish as Adeline went to the kitchen for coffee. The house alone is worth $2 million, Carlos estimated. Plus the business, the wine collection, probably stocks and bonds. We need to move fast, Isabel said, before he gets suspicious. The wedding should be within 3 months. That's too fast, Mateo protested. She'll wonder why the rush. Tell her you can't wait to start your life together. Isabel cooed. Women love that romantic nonsense. Adeline returned with a coffee pot, humming happily. The conversation switched back to English seamlessly. Your mother was beautiful, Isabel said, gesturing at our family photo. Mexican, Puerto Rican. I replied, watching her realize the implications. Mateo's eyes darted to mine, a flicker of fear crossing his face. Did I understand? How much had I heard? She must have taught you about our culture, Carlos said carefully, testing. Some, I said vaguely. She passed when Adeline was 18. Relief flooded their faces. The grieving widower wouldn't have kept up with languages. Life insurance must have helped. Isabel probed again. A good policy makes such a difference. We had excellent coverage, I confirmed, refilling wine glasses. Maria insisted on it. Carlos was getting sloppy now, the wine working through him. He switched to Spanish again, forgetting caution. The daughter's pretty enough. Mateo won't suffer too much. 3 years of pretending isn't so bad for millions. I can't have children with her, Mateo said. I won't do that to Sofia. You'll do whatever's necessary, Carlos growled. Children make the divorce easier anyway. Courts favor mothers. She keeps the kids. We keep the money. My hand tightened on the wine bottle. Maria's voice echoed in my memory. Knowledge is power only if they don't know you have it. More cake. I offered in English, my voice perfectly steady. You're too kind, Isabel cooed, though she just called me an easy mark in Spanish. I served seconds, thinking about my Marine unit. We had a saying, never let the enemy know you understand their communications. It had saved lives in Honduras, Panama, even stateside during joint operations. We should discuss the wedding venue, Adeline said excitedly. Mateo wants something big. Of course he does, Carlos agreed in English, then asserted in Spanish. Expensive weddings photograph, well for immigration. The evening wound down with more planning, more calculating. They discussed dates, venues, guest lists, all while weaving Spanish assessments of my net worth between English pleasantries. The prenup will be tricky, Isabel said in Spanish. We need him to refuse one. Tell the daughter prenups mean you don't believe in love, Carlos advised Mateo. She'll convince her father. At the door, they transformed back into the loving family. Mateo kissed Adeline deeply while his parents smirked behind her back. She melted into him, so trusting, so in love with an illusion. Carlos pumped my hand again, that too firm grip. We're so blessed to join your family, Truman. Welcome to the family, I replied, matching his pressure. Exactly. I closed the door and immediately reached for my phone. They'd made a critical mistake. They declared war on a Marine who'd spent years in intelligence. My fingers found Frank's number in my contacts. Former IC, current private investigator, and someone who owed me favors from our service days. The phone rang once before Frank's gravelly voice answered. Truman, it's late, brother. I need your help, I said, watching through the window as the Hernandez family climbed into their rented Lexus. Full background investigation. 3 Mexican nationals, possibly illegal, planning a marriage fraud. Your daughter. Frank knew Adeline. They picked the wrong family, I said. Carlos was gesturing animatedly in the car, probably calculating his future wealth. I pushed open my office door at 10 o'clock the next morning to find Frank Loud's boots propped on my desk. Security footage from my home cameras was playing on his laptop. How long you been sitting in my office? Since 7. He didn't look up. Your security system needs updating. Also, your future son-in-law is a piece of work. They called me an old fool. Frank in my own house. His boots hit the floor. Tell me everything. I did. The whole dinner, the Spanish conversation, every detail. When I repeated Carlos's words in perfect Spanish, Frank's eyebrows rose. Since when do you speak Spanish? Puerto Rico. 2 years stationed at Roosevelt Roads. Maria's family took me in. Made sure I learned properly. I turned from a window. Never mentioned it after she died. No reason to. Frank was already typing. Smart. Element of surprise. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Mateo Hernandez. Here we go. B2 tourist visa entered January 2nd. Expires April 15th, 30 days from now. He's desperate. More typing. Carlos Hernandez. Interesting. Deported 2018 for aggravated assault. He's here illegally. Carlos has ties to the Sinaloa cartel. Money laundering through used car lots. Frank pulled up another window. That's why Junior works at BMW of Austin. It's owned by cartel associates. Isabel. Previous investigation for marriage fraud, 2019. Case dropped. Insufficient evidence. He switched screens. But look at this. Mateo's real name isn't Hernandez. It's Mateo Ramirez. Different father on the birth certificate. My phone buzzed. Adeline texting about wedding venues. I set it aside. There's more. Frank opened Facebook. Social media is better than any database sometimes. Meet Sofia Martinez. The profile showed a pretty woman, mid-20s, visibly pregnant. The latest post in Spanish. Can't wait for Mateo to return from his business trip. Our baby needs her father. Posted March 10th, 5 days ago. Rage built cold in my chest. Not hot anger. The icy fury that had kept me alive. We could arrest him now. Frank offered. I still have contacts at IC. No. They'll claim it's all a misunderstanding. Mateo will disappear back to Mexico. They'll find another target. So, we give them exactly what they want. Then we take it all away. I grabbed a legal pad, started sketching. Remember the Rodriguez sting? The shell company. Frank grinned. Trinity Developments remains legally registered. Can you get the office on Congress again? Month-to-month lease. I know the building manager. He was already texting. What kind of trap are we setting? The kind that makes them convict themselves. I drew out the plan. A fake investment opportunity. Marked money, hidden cameras, and documents that look like contracts, but contain admissions. Frank whistled. You need them to bring in cash. Carlos won't trust banks. He'll bring cash. Frank's phone rang. My guy at Border Patrol ran the whole family. They've done this before. 3 times in California, twice in Arizona. How many girls like Adeline? 5 that we know of. All divorced within 3 years of marriage. All lost significant assets. I punched the wall. My knuckles split. Blood spotting the drywall. Frank handed me a tissue without comment. We need bait, he said. Something to make them approach you. Government contract. Minority partnership requirement. Big money, but needs upfront investment. How much? $50,000. Enough to hurt. Not enough to make them suspicious. Frank pulled up document templates. I'll need 2 days to make convincing forgeries. Background company, fake contracts, the works. I need to accidentally run into Mateo. Somewhere Carlos will be. Frank showed me a text. Carlos Hernandez spotted at Austin BMW. There every Thursday night. Thursday I go car shopping. You don't need a car. I need to look successful, vulnerable, slightly drunk. Undercover in Tijuana, celebrating alone because I have no one to share good news with. Frank stood, closing his laptop. We'll need backup, recording equipment, maybe some off-duty cops to play employees. Whatever it costs, Frank. Are you sure about this? These people have cartel connections. It could get dangerous. I thought about Adeline. They targeted my daughter, Frank. They sat at Maria's table and planned to destroy our family. That's a yes, then. That's a promise. What about the real girlfriend, Sofia? After we have them on tape, after the money changes hands, we bring her here. Let her confront Mateo herself. Cruel justice. I looked at Maria's photo. They want to play with people's hearts. Let them explain to a pregnant woman why her man is marrying someone else. 4 days of preparation led me to Uchi's entrance at 7 p.m. Thursday evening. I'd gargled with bourbon-flavored mouthwash in the parking lot. I stumbled slightly across the threshold. Not drunk, just loose. Successful businessman celebrating alone. I recognized Mateo immediately at a corner seat. I made my approach look accidental, bumping his shoulder as I reached for a menu. Sorry. I squinted at him. Mateo Hernandez. Truman, my future son-in-law. I grabbed his shoulder. Let me buy you a drink. Hell, let me buy you dinner. Oh, I couldn't. Nonsense. I flagged the bartender. Sake, the expensive one. We're celebrating. Mateo set down his phone. What are we celebrating? I leaned in conspiratorially. Can you keep a secret? Don't want Adeline to know yet. His eyes sharpened. Of course. $5 million. I pulled out my phone, fumbling with it. See, government contract. Just won it today. $5 million. The phone displayed Frank's forged documents. Problem is, I signaled for another sake. These government contracts, so many requirements, need minority business partners, diversity quotas. Here I am, successful white guy. Can't even access my own contract without help. Mateo's fingers flew across his phone screen, texting in Spanish. Papa, maybe I could help, he suggested. My father owns a business, construction experience. Has to be Hispanic-owned, documented, all legal. I waved my hand vaguely. Government's strict about that. Everything with my father is completely legal. Mateo lied smoothly. The sake arrived. I poured sloppily. Family. We drink. We drank. Mateo kept texting. Within 20 minutes, Carlos burst through the door. Papa. Mateo stood. What a coincidence. My son and Mr. Green. How wonderful. Carlos's performance wouldn't win awards. Join us. I'm celebrating. Carlos took the seat beside me, hemming me in. I went through the whole story again. The contract was for building veteran housing. My company was perfect except for one thing. Needed a minority partner to qualify. Such unfair requirements. Carlos sympathized, his eyes gleaming. $50,000 buy-in, I said, producing more forged documents. But the return, $500,000 within 3 months. Father and son exchanged looks. But Adeline can't know. Want to surprise her? Wedding present. Set up college funds for grandkids. Of course, Carlos soothed. Family business stays in the family. We could be partners, Carlos suggested carefully. You do that. I grabbed his hand. Family helping family. When would you need the investment? Mateo asked. April 1st, deadline for partnership papers. I fumbled for my wallet, overpaying the bartender by $200. Money means nothing without family to share it with. Carlos helped me stand. Listen, if you're serious, my office, Trinity Developments, April 1st, 2 o'clock. We'll be there, Carlos promised. I started to leave, then turned back. Bring the investment in cash. Government tracks everything else. Tax advantages. I winked obviously. Outside, I maintained the act until their BMW pulled away. Then I straightened, walked normally to the valet, and texted Frank. Fish on a hook. Back at the table, Carlos was drilling Mateo in Spanish. Does the girl suspect anything? Nothing, Papa. She's completely in love. Good. $50,000 investment, 10 times return. Even if it's half true, we profit. They hadn't noticed I'd left my phone recording on the bar, hidden under a napkin. Frank would retrieve it later. Every word captured. April 1st, 2 p.m. I watched the security monitors as Mateo's BMW entered the Congress Avenue parking garage. Frank, dressed as attorney James Morrison, arranged contracts on the conference table one last time. Actors in position? I asked. 3 off-duty cops playing employees. Background authenticity. Frank adjusted his tie. Recording equipment's running. Multiple angles. The office looks perfect. The trap was set. Now we wait for the wolves. Through the glass door, actual businesses operated. Their employees unknowing extras in our show. The elevator dinged. Mateo and Carlos emerged, Carlos carrying a black duffel bag. Isabel had stayed home, probably counting their future millions. Welcome to Trinity Developments, I boomed, all successful businessman. The reception actor looked up, smiled, returned to fake work. Mr. Green. Mateo shook my hand, ready to make history. Family history, I corrected, leading them to the conference room. Mr. Morrison, these are our new partners. Frank stood, every inch the corporate lawyer. Gentlemen, please sit. We have several documents to execute today. The bag hit the table with a solid thump. Carlos unzipped it partially, revealing bundled bills. $50,000, as discussed. Excellent. Frank spread papers across the table. Standard partnership agreement. Mr. Hernandez, both Mr. Hernandez's. I'll need you to read and sign where indicated. The documents were masterpieces, real legal language bearing admissions. Page 3, subsection 2A. Partner acknowledges investment for purposes of establishing legitimate business presence for immigration status. Page 7. Partner affirms all representations regarding legal status are materially false if proven otherwise. Mateo signed eagerly. Carlos read more carefully, but missed the buried language. They initialed every page, authenticated every trap. Now, Frank said, the investment transfer requires verbal acknowledgement for the recording. He pointed to a visible recorder. State your names and the amount being invested. Mateo Hernandez investing $50,000. Carlos Hernandez investing $50,000. Neither realized they'd just confessed to money laundering on tape. I counted the cash slowly. Frank photographing serial numbers with his phone for records. The bills were marked. Federal tracking would trace them if needed. Champagne. I produced a bottle, pouring generous glasses. To our children's future. Carlos toasted. We drank. Mateo took selfies with the partnership documents. Carlos called Isabel, speaking Spanish. It's done. We're officially partners in an American construction company. When do we see returns? Carlos asked. First distribution in 30 days. Frank replied. Section 7B of the contract. And the government contract finalizes once the partnership is recorded Monday morning. I showed them more forged documents. Everything's in motion. An actor knocked and entered. Mr. Green, Houston's online too about the veteran project. Tell them we're ready to proceed. Perfect timing. Rehearsed that morning. Mateo practically glowed. This is really happening. Family taking care of family. I said, clasping his shoulder. They prepared to leave. Carlos securing the now empty duffel. At the door, Mateo turned. Adeline doesn't know. Our secret. Want to surprise her with the wedding fund. You're a good father, Carlos said. I wondered if he meant it or was still acting. They left jubilant. I watched from the window as they drove away, already planning their spending. Frank began packing the recording equipment. How long before they realize, he asked. They won't get the chance. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a number Frank had found. International code for Mexico. Hello, Miss Martinez. This is Truman Green calling from Austin, Texas. Your flight lands tomorrow at 2:15. I'll have a car waiting. Frank raised an eyebrow. Yes, I continued. Mateo doesn't know you're coming. That's important. Bring any documentation you have about your relationship. Photos, messages, medical records about the pregnancy. Sofia Martinez's voice crackled through the connection, confused but cooperative. She'd been desperate when Frank had first contacted her. Now she had hoped for answers. No, Miss Martinez. All expenses are covered. Just be ready for some difficult truths. I hung up. Tomorrow, Frank asked, labeling evidence bags. Tomorrow, Adeline meets Mateo's real fiancé. Sunday, family dinner with special guests. Monday morning, ice raids at the BMW dealership. I picked up one of the contracts. Mateo's signature bold across the bottom. They wanted to steal my daughter's future. Now they've signed their own deportation orders. The office phone rang. The real office phone, my construction company. Green Construction. I answered. Mr. Green, this is Detective Morrison, Austin PD. We've been monitoring Carlos Hernandez as part of a larger investigation. We understand you've had contact. I smiled at Frank. The evidence we'd submitted through his contacts was already working. Detective, I think you'll want to see what we've recorded today. 2 weeks crawled by before everything started unraveling. April 15th, 8 in the evening. I sat reviewing dealership surveillance footage when Adeline's face filled my phone screen. Video calling. Her mascara had smeared slightly, and she held papers in trembling hands. Dad, I found something. Many somethings. Behind her, I could hear water running, Mateo in the shower. Smart girl waited until he couldn't hear. What kind of somethings? She held documents to the camera. Even through the screen, I recognized the expired visa Frank had flagged weeks ago. His visa expired today. Today. He told me he had a green card. Maybe there's an explanation. There's more. Her voice cracked. Papers rustled. Different last name on his Mexican ID. Ramirez, not Hernandez. I forced surprise into my voice. That's strange. And this. A bank withdrawal slip filled the screen. $50,000. April 1st. Where did he get $50,000, Dad? The shower stopped. Put everything back exactly as you found it. I urged quickly. There's a second phone, she whispered urgently. Hidden in his sock drawer. Messages in Spanish. I can't read them, but I see a name repeated. Sophia. My chest tightened. She was discovering things faster than planned. Screenshot what you can. Send them to me. I'll translate. Her fingers flew across both phones. The texts mentioned Sophia. Lots of heart emojis, recent ones. Honey, you done in there? Mateo's voice carried through the bathroom door. Almost. Adeline called back. Her voice artificially bright. She turned back to the camera. Dad, what's happening? Come for dinner Sunday. Bring Mateo. Act normal. Normal, Dad? I think my problem is. The bathroom door opened. Steam rolled out. Who are you talking to? Mateo stood in a towel, water still dripping from his hair. Just Dad, Adeline said, that fake brightness coating her words. About Sunday dinner. His face stiffened. He walked closer, hand extended. Let me talk to him about something. The camera shook as he took the phone. His face replaced Adeline's, too close to the lens. Truman, my future father. The charm felt forced. About that investment opportunity. What investment? I kept my voice carefully neutral. The one we discussed with my father. Trinity Developments. Mateo, I think you're confused. Should we discuss this Sunday? We should discuss this now. Mateo. Adeline's voice interrupted. Everything okay? He turned, giving me a view of Adeline standing by the dresser, drawer closed, looking innocently concerned. My smart girl. Everything's perfect, Mamor, he said, but his voice carried an edge. He turned back to me. Sunday, then. We'll talk Sunday. Looking forward to it, I said. He ended the call without a goodbye. My phone immediately buzzed with Adeline's screenshots, pages of Spanish messages between Mateo and Sophia. Only one more month, my love. Then divorce and we can be together. I called Frank. Adeline knows something's wrong. How much? Enough to be suspicious. Not enough to be safe. I forwarded him the screenshots. Mateo's getting desperate. Visas expired. Money spent. No return coming. Want to move up the timeline. No. Sophia arrives May 1st as planned, but put surveillance on Adeline's apartment. If Mateo makes one threatening move, I want him gone. Already on it. Had someone watching since April 2nd. Truman, Frank continued. The Austin PD contact called. Carlos has been making inquiries about you. Street-level stuff. Where you go, who you see, your routines. Let him look. He'll find what we want him to find. You sure Sunday dinner is smart? Cornered animals get dangerous. They're not cornered yet. They still think they're winning. I pulled up the contracts they'd signed. They're about to learn what cornered really means. The girl from Mexico confirmed for May 1st. Confirmed. 7 months pregnant and desperate for answers. This is going to destroy Adeline. She's already breaking. Better it comes from me than from them. I closed the surveillance footage. Sunday dinner. Make sure you have units standing by. You expecting violence? I'm expecting desperation. In my experience, they look the same. May 1st arrived with thunderstorms, fitting weather for what was coming. Frank and I waited in the Hilton lobby. She entered through the automatic doors, pulling a small suitcase, and my breath caught. 7 months pregnant, exhausted, beautiful in that vulnerable way that made her seem younger than 26. She looked lost until she spotted the sign I held. Sophia Martinez. Mr. Green. Her English was heavily accented but clear. "Miss Martinez, this is Frank Laub, my associate." I took her suitcase. "Your room is ready." In the elevator, she stayed silent, overwhelmed. The executive suite Frank had prepared was comfortable but professional. "Please sit. You must be tired." "Mateo, he doesn't know I'm here?" "No." She pulled out her phone. "He stopped answering 2 months ago after years of promises." Frank poured water. "Tell us about your relationship." The story poured out in broken English mixed with Spanish. Childhood sweethearts from the same neighborhood in Guadalajara, together since she was 17. His mother Isabel is my cousin. She introduced us at her daughter's quinceañera. "Isabel is your cousin." This was new information. She promised to help us. Said Mateo needed papers first, and then could bring me. Sophia opened her purse, spreading documents on the coffee table. Photos of them together spanning years. In every photo, Mateo looked genuinely happy. Different from the performance he gave with Adeline. "When did he tell you about coming to America?" "January. His papa said he had a business opportunity. Just few months, get papers, then send for me." She pulled up WhatsApp messages. Mateo's promises were elaborate, specific. "The baby?" I asked gently. Her face lit up despite everything. He was so happy. "Look," she showed an ultrasound video. Mateo's voice in the background speaking rapid Spanish, calling himself Papa over and over. That was December before he left. Tears started falling. He said green card marriage meant nothing, just papers, business arrangement. Did he mention the woman's name? No, only that she was American teacher. "Means nothing," he said. She looked at me with those dark eyes. "Is she pretty? Will your daughter hate me?" "No, none of this is your fault. I just want my baby to have a father. His father, Carlos, threatens to disown him if he doesn't follow plan." Frank leaned forward. "What exactly was the plan?" "Marry American woman, get green card, wait 3 years for citizenship, divorce, take money." She said it simply, like describing a recipe. Carlos has done before with other cousins. "Other cousins?" 3 in California, 2 in Arizona. It's family business. Frank and I exchanged glances. This was bigger than we'd known. The $50,000 Mateo had. Where did that come from? Sophia looked confused. "What $50,000? We have no money is why he went to America." I showed her the bank slip from Adeline's photos. Her face went pale. He told me we had nothing. I worked 2 jobs to pay for baby things." Fresh tears. "Where did he get this money?" "From his father, probably for an investment." "Investment in what?" "In destroying my daughter's life." She gasped hand to mouth. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know the details." "We believe you," Frank said gently. "That's why we brought you here, to stop them." Room service arrived. As she ate, she showed more evidence. Bank transfers from Mateo before he left. They stopped in March. "After he got engaged," I said. She flinched. "Engaged? He uses that word with her." "Yes, with me. He never used that word. For years together, but no engagement. Said we didn't need papers to prove love." She laughed bitterly. "But for an American woman, he needs papers." "Miss Martinez, Sophia, what happens at the wedding?" I asked. "What wedding?" "The one planned for June. Mateo and my daughter." Her face crumbled. "June. So soon." My phone buzzed. "Text from Mateo. Need to talk about our investment." "Where's my money?" I typed back. "What investment? You're confused." His response was instant. "Don't play games, old man. We have contracts. Come to dinner May 15th. We'll discuss everything. 3 dots. Then, we better discuss more than that. You owe us." I showed Frank the texts. He nodded toward Sophia. "There won't be a wedding," I told Sophia, "but there will be justice. Are you willing to confront him? Face to face with witnesses? With police standing by?" She placed both hands on her belly, seemed to draw strength from a life growing there. "Yes, for my baby. Yes, The confrontation will be May 15th. 2 weeks to prepare. What do I do until then? Rest. Document everything. Practice what you'll say. I stood. Frank will check on you daily. You're safe here. Mr. Green. She called as we reached the door. Your daughter. She loves him. I thought of Adeline's trembling hands. She loves who she thought he was. I understand that feeling. In the elevator, Frank was already planning. 2 weeks gives us time to coordinate with IC, Austin PD, maybe FBI if the cartel connection is solid. May 15th, I confirmed. Family dinner, everyone at the same table. That's going to be explosive. That's the idea. Mateo wanted to destroy my family at my dinner table. Seems fitting to return the favor. May 15th arrived like a reckoning. 6 o'clock, and through my front window I watched 3 cars pull up simultaneously. Orchestrated intimidation. Carlos emerged first, red with rage. Isabel followed, her cold eyes scanning my house. Mateo came last, gripping Adeline's arm too tightly. I opened the door. Carlos pushed past me. Where's our money, old man? Good evening to you, too, Carlos. Dinner's ready. We didn't come for dinner. He stormed into my living room, where Adeline sat nervously. $50,000. 30 days. You said 30 days. What investment? Adeline asked. Nothing or more, Mateo said quickly, but his grip on her shoulder made her wince. Business between men. Trinity Developments, the government contract. Where's our return? I poured myself water. There must be some misunderstanding. I don't have any business with you. Don't lie. We have contracts. Dad, what are they talking about? Adeline tried to stand, but Mateo pressed her back down. Stay seated, he ordered, not asked. Ordered. That was the moment. I saw it in Adeline's eyes. The final break of illusion. Let go of me, she said quietly. You're not going anywhere until this is resolved, Mateo said. She jerked away, standing. I said let go. Carlos switched to Spanish. Control your woman, or this whole thing falls apart. English, please, I said mildly. We all speak English here. Some of us speak more than that. Carlos snarled, then caught himself. Mateo. Adeline's voice was stronger now. Your visa expired. I saw the papers. Your real name is Ramirez. You have a second phone. Who's Sophia? Isabel stood sharply. This girl knows too much. Knows what exactly? I asked. We need the wedding now, Isabel announced. This week, before more problems. There won't be a wedding, Adeline said. Mateo grabbed her wrist. Yes, there will. You're hurting me, Mateo. My voice carried the tone that had stopped our fights. Release my daughter now. He let go, but moved between us. Your daughter owes us a wedding, Carlos said. We have an investment in this family. Your father took $50,000 from us, Isabel said coldly, for a business partnership. Now he refuses to pay. There is no Trinity Developments, I said calmly. Well, there is, but it's not what you think. We have contracts. Mateo pulled papers from his jacket. Yes, you do. Contracts where you admitted to immigration fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. I smiled. Did you even read what you signed? Every word buried in those contracts is a confession. Every dollar you handed over is marked and tracked. Every conversation was recorded. You set us up. Carlos's hand moved toward his pocket, hands where I can see them. Frank's voice came from the hallway. He entered with 2 Austin PD officers. Nobody moves. I need some air, Adeline said suddenly, heading for the door. Mateo grabbed her arm roughly. You're not going anywhere. She pulled free and ran. Gentlemen, ladies, I think it's time we discuss this like civilized people. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. That would be our final dinner guest, I said, walking to the door. Sophia stood on my porch, 7 months pregnant, beautiful and terrified. Behind her, another officer waited. Mateo. Her voice carried into the house. Mamor. I heard a crash from the dining room. Mateo had dropped his wine glass. Sophia. His voice cracked. She walked in slowly, dignity intact. Hola, Mateo. Your father said you were on a business trip. Carlos cursed in Spanish. Isabel's mask shattered. Who is this? Adeline asked, though the answer was obvious. I am Sofia Martinez, she said in careful English. I am having Mateo's baby. We are together 7 years. For years. Mateo corrected automatically, then realized his mistake. So you do know her, Adeline said flatly. Sophia pulled out her phone, showing everyone the ultrasound. 3 months until baby comes. You promised to be there, Mateo. This is entrapment, Carlos shouted. This is justice, Frank corrected. Carlos Hernandez, you were deported in 2018. You're here illegally. Mateo, your visa expired April 15th. You're here illegally. The money you invested marked bills tied to cartel laundering through BMW of Austin. You can't prove anything, Isabel said. Actually, Detective Morrison entered. We can. We've been building this case for 2 years. You just gave us the final pieces. Mateo. Adeline reached for him. I can explain. Don't. She backed away. Just don't. Sophia approached him slowly. The money you said we didn't have. $50,000. Where did it come from? It's complicated, he mumbled. Complicated. She laughed bitterly. What's complicated? You left me pregnant to marry another woman for papers. It meant nothing, he protested. Just business. I meant nothing. Adeline asked. He looked between them. These 2 women he betrayed, and for once had no smooth words. Mr. Hernandez, all 3 of you need to come with us. Morrison stepped forward. This isn't over. Carlos threatened me. Yes, I said. It is. 17 days had passed since the arrests when Special Agent Rivera clicked through surveillance footage. June 1st, 11 in the morning. I sat beside Adeline in the IC field office. This one. Rivera paused the footage. April 1st, 2:47 p.m. Both suspects verbally confessing to money laundering. Dad, you knew about the baby, about Sophia. Adeline's voice was small. Since May 1st. We needed her testimony. The screen switched to a video link. Sophia, back in Mexico, 8 months pregnant. Adeline's tears started when Sophia showed photos from their childhood. Miss Green. Rivera turned to Adeline. We need you to go through with the ceremony. What? Adeline stood suddenly. A controlled operation. The wedding happens. We arrest them there. Maximum charges. No escape routes. They threaten you. Thompson added. Attempted coercion assault. I can't marry him. Not even fake marry him. You won't, Rivera assured her. The officiant will be one of ours. Nothing legal will occur. But we need them to believe it's real until the moment of arrest. Frank leaned forward. The cartel connections run deeper than we thought. BMW of Austin was laundering millions. Your case broke it open. Rivera's phone buzzed. Carlos just bought 3 one-way tickets to Mexico City, July 16th, the day after your wedding. They're planning to run, Thompson said. With my daughter, I added. Kidnapping, most likely. Force her to Mexico. Keep her until citizenship is granted. Adeline paled. They were going to kidnap me. The tickets support that theory, Rivera said. 3 tickets, not 4. They never intended to leave Mateo's wife behind. The evidence mounted. Carlos's previous deportation file with assault charges, Isabel's 2019 fraud investigation, a pattern across 6 states. The baby changes things, Frank noted. Mateo abandoned a pregnant woman for immigration fraud. The jury will destroy him. We're looking at 10 to 20 years for Carlos, 5 to 10 for Isabel, 3 to 5 for Mateo before deportation. Thompson suggested RICO charges, Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, were possible. They fitted Adeline with a tiny, undetectable recording device. She stood still, her face set with new determination. 6 weeks to prepare, Rivera said. July 15th, St. David's Episcopal Church. We've already coordinated with the venue. How many agents? I asked. 25 undercover as guests, another dozen outside. Austin PD backup. My phone buzzed. Text from Carlos. We need to discuss our investment. Meet tomorrow. Let him stew. Rivera advised. No contact until the wedding. Make them desperate. Adeline turned to me. Mom would have done this, wouldn't she? Fought back. Without hesitation. Frank's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going pale. Sophia's in labor, 2 weeks early. The baby. Adeline started. Stress-induced. Frank continued listening. She's asking for Mateo. She understands. Just wanted him to know his son was being born while he sat in a cell. The room fell silent. 6 weeks, Rivera repeated. We end this properly. The wedding. Adeline asked. Will be beautiful. Rivera smiled grimly. Right until it isn't. July 15th arrived with blazing Texas heat. 3 o'clock, and I stood adjusting my tie in the church's preparation room mirror, the bulletproof vest underneath, making the suit fit awkwardly. Organ music drifted through the walls. Wagner's bridal chorus. The door opened. Adeline entered, wearing Maria's wedding dress, the one we'd saved for this day, though never imagining these circumstances. Beautiful but determined. She looked like her mother heading into battle. 50 guests, she said, checking the small microphone hidden in her bouquet. 25 are agents, plus support teams outside. I helped her with the veil. Rivera's playing the minister. Through the door's window, we could see the church filling. Mateo stood at the altar, sweating despite the air conditioning, checking his phone obsessively. Carlos and Isabel sat in the front row, suspicious, but trapped by their own greed. They needed this wedding for their plan. Frank has eyes on everything, I assured her. Multiple exit coverage. The music changed. Traditional processional. The doors opened. The walk down the aisle felt eternal. Mateo's forced smile. Carlos's calculating stare. Isabel already eyeing the wedding gifts table. Agent Rivera stood at the altar in minister's robes, her face serene. We reached the altar. I placed Adeline's hand in Mateo's, wanting to break his fingers instead. Dearly beloved, Rivera began, her voice carrying perfectly. We gather today to testify. The church doors burst open. Everyone turned. Sophia stood silhouetted against the afternoon sun, no longer pregnant, but carrying a small bundle. She walked forward, her heels clicking on the stone floor, echoing in the sudden silence. I object, she said clearly, continuing down the aisle. The baby cried, sharp, piercing, real. Sophia. Mateo's face drained white. She reached the altar, turned to face the congregation. This is my husband's son. Mateo's son, 2 weeks old today. Carlos shot to his feet. This is lies. Tricks. Sit down, Mr. Hernandez, Rivera said, and it wasn't a request. Sophia pulled documents from her bag. Birth certificate. Mateo Ramirez named as the father. His name is Miguel, like you wanted. This is a setup. Carlos rushed toward Sophia. That was the signal. Federal agents. Nobody move. 25 guests stood simultaneously, badges appearing, weapons visible but not drawn. Carlos threw a punch at the nearest agent, missed, and was on the ground in seconds. Papa. Mateo started toward him. Don't, Adeline said, pulling off her veil. Just don't. Isabel tried to run in her heels, made it 3 steps before an agent stopped her. She fell, screaming in Spanish about lawsuits and diplomatic immunity she didn't have. Mateo Hernandez. Morrison appeared with handcuffs. You're under arrest for immigration fraud, money laundering conspiracy. Adeline, please. Mateo reached for her. She pulled off the engagement ring, threw it. It bounced off his chest, fell to the floor with a tiny metallic sound. That's for lying. For Sophia. For your son you abandoned. They dragged him out past the scattered flowers and overturned pews. Mateo collapsed to his knees, staring at the baby in Sophia's arms. Can I hold him? He asked. No, Sophia said simply. You had your chance. The church emptied quickly. Crime scene tape appeared. Only 4 of us remained in the scattered petals. Truman, Adeline, Sophia, and baby Miguel. 5 weeks later, August 20th, and the Texas sun painted everything gold as it set behind my house. I set 2 wine glasses on a patio table. The news coverage is dying down, Adeline said, joining me. Verdicts came in yesterday. I told her. Carlos got 10 years federal, then deportation. Isabel got 5. Mateo got 3. Deportation after. And the money? Returned via federal asset forfeiture. $50,000 back in my account this morning. She nodded, sipping the wine. Sophia returned to Mexico last week. The government provided compensation from seized cartel assets. She'll be okay. I enrolled in Spanish classes, Adeline said suddenly. No more secrets in my presence. Never again. Frank arrived with beer and barbecue. Brought mail from Sophia. The letter included photos of baby Miguel, now 2 months old. She writes that he looks like his father, but has her spirit. Another envelope had arrived, addressed to Adeline from federal detention. Mateo's handwriting. She didn't open it. Instead, she walked to the fire barrel I'd set up, dropped it in unopened. Some words don't deserve reading. We burned things that night. The fake marriage certificate, the wedding planning documents. The dress went last. BMW dealerships closed. Frank reported. Fed seized everything. The investigation expanded to 12 states. 47 victims have come forward so far. I pulled out a new document. Green Construction got the veterans' housing contract. The real one. $5 million. Legitimate. The one you pretended to have. Fiction became fact. Adeline laughed. Mom would have loved that detail. To Maria, I raised my glass, who taught me the Spanish that saved our daughter. To Mom, Adeline echoed. And to new beginnings. Frank raised his beer. To justice served cold and calculated. Adeline mentioned fellow teacher she'd been having coffee with. His name's David, divorced, has a daughter. Very careful, very honest. Careful is good, I said. Honest is better. I've been thinking about Mom a lot, Adeline said. How she would have handled this. She would have done exactly what I did, I replied, but probably faster. I wish for wisdom to see the truth always. The night deepened. A text from Sophia arrived. A video of Miguel laughing, his first laugh. He'll never know his father, Adeline observed. He'll know his mother fought for him. That's enough. Dad, Adeline asked, would you do it again? Every single move, even letting them in that first night. Especially that. Sometimes you have to let the devil in to send him back where he belongs. She stood, hugged me longer than usual. Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. The stars above Austin shone bright and honest. Justice had been served, heated by a father's love that would move mountains, expose lies, and speak any language necessary to protect his child. Do you think Adeline will be able to fully trust a romantic partner again after this experience? Or will her new commitment to wisdom to see the truth always protect her? If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right. Thank you for watching.